You transmuted that energy. You took that pain and you turned it into power. But what does it actually mean? I'm a Saggy Moon, so I'm a thinker. And I was thinking today about the fact that we use these words within the spiritual community, or in others too, but how do we actually break that down so we understand what it is that we're doing? You've been through so much, so much, not just in that last relationship, that breakdown with a family, friend or colleague, maybe lover, whatever you've been through, whatever that last ego death tower moment was for you, you do something naturally that is actually a spiritual and mental process. So I just wanted to share what transmuting actually is, because we use that word all the time. And yeah, let's make sure we're all on the same page of the spell book. So the first thing that you're doing, whether you realize it or not, is you're being self-aware in the moment. Now, this can happen over an hour or over, several weeks, this whole process. But the key is that you're following it and you're completing it. Once you're identifying the current state of how you're feeling versus what's actually happening, impacts on others, you're being self-aware and doing a kind of situational analysis. Then the next thing that you'll do is you will name the experience, the energies, the emotions, and the facts. Once you get to that stage, that enables you to have clarity. And that's when you're able to ground. And that's the moment where you're able to make decisions, either for yourself, and maybe those are things that you keep to yourself, or things that you actually act out. And then finally, there's a cleansing. Now, that might be the ending of a relationship or a compromise or, a decision that you make for yourself. But when we think about this spiritually as well, you've been doing additional things that kind of seal each of those chapters. So identifying the situation, speaking to your ancestors, speaking to the Most High, confirming it for your higher self. You get a two-way exchange then that is obviously going to add power to what's happening to you psychologically as well. Once you've named anything, it's there. It's very difficult to ignore. In fact, it's impossible because your unconscious, subconscious is going to keep bringing it up for you. And if you're adding spiritual practice to that, you might be doing something like journaling. You might not think that's particularly spiritual. You don't have to be spiritual to journal, obviously. But there might be certain practices. One that I use is from a book called The Artist's Way, which is I describe it as free journaling. So you write 3 pages every morning and you don't censor yourself. And if you've got nothing to say, you just write, I've got nothing to say, I've got nothing to say, I've got nothing to say. But you have to fill 3 pages. You never read it. And it's very interesting because once something's named in a process like that, it's impossible because it's all you're going to be writing about. And although that might be quite scary, once we have named everything, and whether that's just in your head or in a journal, that next that part in the process, that anchoring, that grounding, it might not be easy, but at least it is identifiable in terms of what is happening, what are the feelings, what's valid, what's not, and how do we move forward. And then that cleansing, that a decision has been made. And from a spiritual perspective, that might be you thanking your ancestors, thanking the Most High, showing gratitude, maybe pouring a little libation. And that's as simple as going outside to your garden, or maybe if you don't have a garden, a plant or some, outside nature somewhere else, and just pouring some water and thanking your spirit team for supporting you and protecting you through that mini or major crisis. The magical element, I guess, is then redirecting that. So rather than to keep going round in cycles on an issue, the ability that we have, that you have, to then say, this is now gone from my life. I leave it open for new opportunities, new hobbies, new skills, new friends, new love. And moving forward, having resolved the issues internally, partially, maybe sometimes, wholly, hopefully, for this time certainly, and being able to move into that new situation, which may have triggers from previous crises, but to be able to view it both compassionately and dispassionately, to be able to identify what's really happening and to use those lessons to transmute that pain into power. So yeah, you're doing magic every day and you don't realize it. So keep at it.